Welcome. My name is Richard Giragosian. This is the first in a new series of weekly programs brought to you from Armenia, providing objective and independent analysis. The title of this show is From the Region with Richard Giragosian. We will be examining different issues every week pertaining to Armenia and its place within the broader region. In many ways, we will be presenting an innovative and objective look at developments over each week. This week's main focus will be, as the first show, a review of developments in Armenian-Turkish relations or diplomacy. We will also look next week at developments regarding the military balance of power and the threat of war. But this week, we're going to report first on developments between Armenia and the Republic of Turkey. A civil society delegation from Armenia, of which I was a part, just recently returned from Ankara for a meeting with Turkish Foreign Minister Ahmet Davutoglu. And what we do want to present is an objective look at where we stand now after the temporary suspension of the protocols between Armenia and Turkey. What's also important is Turkey continues to pressure Armenia and to test Armenia. And within this broader regional context, it's important to note that in many ways, Nagorno-Karabakh is no longer a prerequisite to the normalization effort between Armenia and Turkey. But let me start with more of a personal analysis. Having been a member of the Armenian delegation to meet with the Turkish foreign minister, what was most interesting is that Turkey seems determined to demonstrate, or at least take several steps designed to show that the process of normalization may continue. What's also important is, in many ways, the Turkish side remains rather insincere and questionably committed to the process. In other words, the Turkish side seems to be using its outreach to Armenia in terms of a way to send a message to the United States and to the world, rather than to do it in sincere obligation in terms of genocide recognition or in terms of building a relationship with Armenia. What's also important here is that the foreign minister of Turkey's desire to meet with Armenian civil society comes only days after he met with the U.S. Secretary of State in Turkey. What this also means is Turkey is doing much for itself, but not enough for Armenia. And in many ways, we see a very specific challenge and test of Armenia coming from Turkey. In this sense, the important thing about the meeting was the Armenian side was able to deliver three specific messages to the Turkish foreign minister. First was that there is no division between Armenia and the diaspora regarding the genocide. Armenians throughout the world and within Armenia are united in demanding and expecting Turkey to recognize the Armenian genocide. The second important element of unity and strength is that Turkey often makes a mistake in thinking Armenia is much weaker and not as strong as it really is in this regard. However, there is an asymmetry of power between Armenia and Turkey, which needs to be addressed. Third, and most importantly, Nagorno-Karabakh, in terms of the United States, Russia, and Armenian policy, Nagorno-Karabakh is no longer a prerequisite for normalization between Armenia and Turkey. And every time Turkey at this point now tries to reimpose a demand for progress over Nagorno-Karabakh, it is insincere and ineffective. And this needs to be further clarified and strengthened. In other words, Nagorno-Karabakh has nothing directly to do with Armenia-Turkish normalization. What's also important is Turkey is changing. Much too slowly for our taste and for our needs, but the revolution within Turkey in terms of redefining Turkey's identity, and in fact is demonstrated by last April 24th. It was the second year in a row where Turks organized their own commemoration of the Armenian genocide within Turkey. This is very important. We need to reach out to those in Turkey that recognize the Armenian genocide and are pushing Turkey toward recognition. In this way, Armenia also needs to greater leverage and harness the Armenians of Istanbul and Turkey. What's also interesting are developments in Nagorno-Karabakh. In many ways, we saw intense expectations and high speculation over the recent meeting between the Armenian, Azerbaijani, and Russian presidents in the Russian city of Kazan. What's also important is that in many ways, the real problem to Nagorno-Karabakh, the real obstacle to the peace process remains Azerbaijan, not Armenia nor the Minsk group. In many ways, what we see is Azerbaijan has now become the only threat to regional security and stability, and in many ways, the only problem or obstacle to even negotiating the effective resolution of the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict. But what's most interesting is at this point in the peace process, we've reached a stage where Nagorno-Karabakh will never and can never return to Azerbaijani control or jurisdiction. This is very important. In many ways, what the peace process is about now is finding a graceful way for Azerbaijan to save face and to let Karabakh go once and for all. But what's most important is Azerbaijan is simply far too obstinate, stubborn, and maximalist in its diplomatic strategy. And the real danger in this region and for Armenia is that Azerbaijan has not realized that it's lost the war and that it has lost Nagorno-Karabakh forever. It is still operating under its own myth of military superiority and threatening through the use of rhetoric and military aggressive threats, is risking and threatening regional security. What this also means is the world must remember the Nagorno-Karabakh conflict started because of Azerbaijan and because of a threat to the security of the Armenians of Karabakh. The only way to resolve the Karabakh conflict is actually to force Azerbaijan to accept reality and to satisfy the security requirements of the Armenians of Karabakh once again. What's also important in this regard is Armenia, Azerbaijan, in terms of this peace process, there is no role for Turkey. Turkey is a biased actor based on its previous support for Azerbaijan and should not play a direct role in the peace process. But realistically, we shouldn't expect any real developments over Nagorno-Karabakh for several years. Despite the diplomatic initiatives, despite the increased tempo of activity, and in many ways it's a Russian initiative trying to resolve this conflict, in many ways we shouldn't expect any real breakthrough because Azerbaijan is not ready to compromise or to resolve this conflict. Another interesting development beyond Armenia-Turkey and beyond Armenia-Azerbaijan and the Karabakh conflict, the other interesting development was recently in Washington. Armenian Deputy Defense Minister David Tanoyan had a very productive and successful visit to Washington. And in meetings with several senior Pentagon officials, the Armenian Deputy Defense Minister was able to agree and to organize a series of joint trainings between Armenia and the United States militaries. This is very important because Armenia has now become much more a contributor rather than a consumer to regional security and stability. Armenia has peacekeeping units deployed in Kosovo, Iraq, and Afghanistan. In many ways, we see Armenia as contributing to international security as well in this regard. What's also most important about this recent meeting in Washington is the fact that Armenia is looking beyond its strategic alliance with Russia as a member of the Collective Security Treaty Organization. Armenia also has deep and deepening ties with NATO and the Partnership for Peace program. This represents in military security a demonstration that Armenia has pursued much more of a policy of complementarity, balancing Armenia's interests both in the West and toward the East. This is very important because if we look at Armenian history, I think it is plain to see that Armenian national security is only guaranteed when Armenia pursues its own security self-sufficiency, rather than relying on the promises of any foreign power, whether it's the United States, Europe, or Russia. Armenia needs to pursue greater self-sufficiency and, as a contributor to regional stability and security, to play more of a role. And in this regard, there are positive trends. A related factor is the internal domestic situation in Armenia. To be honest, we are far from full democracy in Armenia, and we have been pursuing a very difficult and challenging road to democracy in Armenia. What this is about now is a transition. We are at the beginning of a transition where, with a dialogue that is now ongoing between the government and the opposition, there is finally more of a chance and more likelihood for national unity. In other words, the dialogue in itself is important, but the dialogue between the opposition and the government is most important because it represents a new recognition. A recognition that an active, dynamic opposition within Armenia is good for everyone. It's good for democracy, it's good for society. Secondly, the dialogue in principle is also important as a symbolic demonstration of the fact that we need more dialogue. We need, within Armenia, to examine critical national issues in an honest, open, and frank manner. For too long, a small group of decision makers have been determining the future of Armenia. And that's what this question is really about. Building a more democratic, a more fair and just Armenia in terms of the kind of Armenia we want our children and grandchildren to live in. The process now is a long-term investment in building Armenia's future. What this also means is every Armenian government, no matter who is in the government, no matter which political party, needs to be held to account. There needs to be more checks and balances on power, and the Armenian citizen needs to evolve from being a spectator into more of an actor in determining the future of Armenia. And in this way, our intent in this program is to provide weekly analysis and an overview of recent developments within a totally objective context. Because in many ways, we haven't had enough discourse and debate within Armenia and within the diaspora about pressing issues facing Armenia today. Next week, we will examine in more detail the regional balance of power, examining the military situation in Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, and Nagorno-Karabakh, and also assess what is the real danger of war that we keep hearing about, and how best to prepare and respond to prevent a renewal of hostilities. So let me thank you for watching this week from the region with Richard Giragosian, and welcome you to participate and to facilitate a more frank discussion and objective analysis of pressing national issues. Thank you.